Okay, so today we're going to talk about in the part two, which is of the book, which is on elasticities, right? I'm going to start with YED for this video, and then the next video we're going to do XED. Then after that in class, I guess I'll do PED and PES with you. Okay, so this video we're going to just do YED. Okay, so we're going to start with the definition first. But before that, let's talk a little bit about how you want to do this. So just take this as a normal lesson. So normal lessons I write down on the board, then you copy. So you can do the same here. Okay, just take a piece of foolscap and then just write down and jot down stuff that I write down on this virtual whiteboard. Okay, so we're gonna start with definition. So before I get to the definition, what are exactly are these elasticities, right? So elasticities they kind of measure how either demand or supply. So you can see here, either demand or supply, how each of these change when a particular variable changes. So in the case of income, it's income that changes, and then you see what happens to demand. And then if the case of cross elasticity, it's the price of another good that changes, and how it changes that good's demand. PED is how the price of that good change would cause quantity demand of that same good to change, and then PES is how price would cause quantity supply to change. So they all measure the responsiveness of different either demand or supply to different variables changing, and then just sort of seeing how much demand or supply changes. Okay, so YED is income. So let's get the definition out. So YED measures the responsiveness of demand of a good demand to a change in income consumers ceteris paribus. So you want to just keep other things constant. Okay, so it's so a couple of things you want to take note for definition. First thing is that this word is demand. It's not quantity demanded, because it's income that's changing. So income is a non-price determinant, so it changes demand. Okay, so you got to be careful in the definition. And then the next thing that people miss out is this ceteris paribus. I don't know why when people define, they always leave this out. So you just want to make sure that you don't leave out the ceteris paribus assumption when you give the definition. Okay, after we talk about this, what exactly is YED? So it measures the responsiveness. So the way it measures the responsiveness is through a mathematical formula. So the YED value. YED has no units, by the way. So all elasticity values have no unit. So there's no dollar sign or anything like that. YED is equals to the percentage change in demand for a good over the percentage change in income for that same good. Okay, so let's talk about the resultant values and what we term all different names. So if you take this mathematical formula, you do the deduction, you do the calculations. What you see is that a range of values come about, right? So if it's more than 0, right? So this one can be either positive or negative. So it can be positive or it can be negative. So positive means what? Positive means that if income increases, which means the denominator is positive, then the demand for that good will increase. Right, so this number is also positive. So if the bottom number is positive, the top number is positive, then eventually you have a positive number. So if YED value is more than 0, it means that this good is a normal good. Right, but some goods when income increases, actually the demand for the good actually decreases. So this is termed as inferior goods. Okay, so what's inferior good? It means if income is increasing, the denominator is positive, the numerator is actually negative, right? People actually buy less of it for inferior goods. So inferior goods have YED values less than 0. So then in this range over here, more than 0, actually most goods belong in this yellow color region, right? So there's a super lot of goods. So what we do is that we kind of split this into two, and we say that okay, there are some goods that have values more than 1 and some goods that have values less than 1. Okay, so what do we mean? If it's more than 1, right, it means that your denominator is positive. The numerator changes by a lot, or quote, more than proportionately. right? Proportionate means one lah, right? So if it's more than one means it changes more than proportionally. So there are some goods where a green color positive circle creates a less than proportionate positive circle, and then for other goods they create a super huge change in demand. So this would be luxury goods here. So luxury goods have YED more than one. Okay. Then you have the case where there's a value between 0 and 1. So this is, I guess, let's just change the blue. This is the blue color circle over here. So you have a change in income, which is positive, but it only leads to a smaller change in demand. So these are what we term as necessities, right? So a given change in income leads to a less than proportionate increase in demand. Okay. So with that, right, let's talk about the factors. So what factors means what makes a good either a luxury good, a green color good, or a blue color good. Okay, what makes a good belong either under the green color or the blue color good, right? So factors determining YED between 0 and 1 or YED more than 1. Okay, so actually it's very duh. The factor that determines whether something is a luxury good or a necessity is the degree of necessity. Okay, this is a technical term. You actually need to write degree of necessity in the exam. Okay, so it's a technical term. I should put it in red. This is the technical term. Cambridge uses this, so we use it also. Okay, the degree of necessity. Okay, so what's the logic behind this? So if something is like super necessary, then it has a lower YED, smaller YED. If something is like not very necessary, then it has a larger YED. Okay, so what's the logic behind this? Okay, so if you think about it, okay, the way I'm going to explain this is I'm going to assume income decrease. Okay, I know you see here, right? I assumed income is increasing. Sorry, here, can you see? Right, but actually you want to understand this factor, this yellow color factor over here, right? It's easier to explain it in terms of decrease. So let's assume it's going to be decrease. So let's say income decreases, right? Then two things can happen, right? One, demand falls off a cliff. Two, demand changes only a little bit. Okay, you think about it. When does the latter case happen? This latter case only happens if this thing is super necessary. Okay, so the good example is let's say I get sacked tomorrow, right? So my income decreases, right? I will still consume roughly the same amount of like rice, for example, right? So the demand for my rice is actually going to decrease, not by a lot. I'm going to more or less consume the same amount of rice, even if I get sacked tomorrow. But if let's say I'm talking about something like a vacation package, right? Let's say I decide that this year end I want to go for a super 3-week vacation to Japan, but then I get sacked tomorrow, right? Naturally, the right thing to do actually would be to cancel the trip so I can leave the money and continue consuming rice, right? So vacations are not very necessary. If they're not very necessary, then they tend to be super responsive. You can see here, right? They tend to be like super responsive to income. Whereas if something is super necessary, it tends to be a little bit less responsive to income. Okay, so the degree of necessity. If something is super necessary, if something is necessary, it's a high degree of necessity, it has a smaller or lower YED value. If something is not very necessary or it has a low degree of necessity, then it's a larger YED value. Okay, can. Then last part, let's talk about applications. So applications. Okay, so there are a couple of applications. Application meaning the question will ask you to apply. Okay, it's all examinable stuff. So, question asks you to apply. So, first way the question can ask you to apply is the implication of YED on total revenue, asking you what happens to total revenue, price or quantity. Total revenue is a P times Q concept. This one I'll talk about when I talk about PED. Okay, but just if you watch the SLS, then you will know that if for coordinate A, the total revenue is a square. Okay, it's the multiple of P and Q. Okay, but doesn't matter if you have when I go through PED, I'll talk about it. But yeah, but if you watch SLS, you will know what I'm talking about. So you need to find out the implication of total revenue and use it to predict either. So implication of YED and use it to predict either total revenue, price, or quantity. So that's the first type of question. This one we will talk about it. You can copy it down in CSQ question 2, as well as essay question 1A. So you will see YED being applied to these questions. Okay. Second one we're going to talk about is application of for firms. Let's call it for firms. This is in section 7.1. So I've seen this come up before. More for school exams than for Cambridge, but yeah, sure. Okay, so implications for firms, section 7.1. Okay, so we'll run through some questions after I'll show you also like how you're going to be tested for each of the different sections. Okay, so I have some questions over here, 4 actually. So what you want to do is you just if you want to copy, I suggest you copy that. Okay, I suggest, but it's up to you. Okay, I can't really police that, but you want to copy, you can just pause the video and then copy the questions now. Okay, just to show you how you're going to be tested. Okay, so first one. Let's use purple just to match the oops, it's a bit lagging because I'm recording. Okay, so the first question asks you to calculate and interpret the likely value of income elasticity of demand for Chinese outbound tourism in 2016. So they give you some percentage figures in table 1 and extract 5. I don't have it here, okay, there's no point me pasting it here, just to let you have a feel of how the question is going to be asked. So calculate and interpret. So if you want to calculate, you got to know the formula, right? So naturally, you got to know this, right? So formula. And you got to interpret. So interpret means you got to know what it means, right? So if it's a luxury good, if it's more than 1, you got to know it's a luxury good. If it's between 0 and 1, you got to know it's a necessity. If it's a negative value, you got to know it's inferior, right? So you got to know the interpretation of the values. Okay, so this is how you be tested. There's one way. Blue color question asks you explain whether the information provided in extract 3, so give you some stuff in extract 3, ask you whether it's sufficient to conclude that the coffee can be classified as a normal good in India. Okay, so you got no normal good means YED more than 0, so this one is kind of testing you for the labels, okay, whether you know it's a normal good. Okay, so from I guess values and the labels. Okay, next one, the red color question. With reference to table 1, explain which meat product is considered more a necessity by consumers in Japan. Okay, so table 1 shows you the YED values. Can you see? Income elasticity of demand, right? So this one you sort of need to know that from the YED you can interpret whether something is a necessity or not, right? So here poultry has the lowest YED value, and you know that I mentioned to you, right? The lowest YED value means something is super necessary, right? Because it's not very responsive to income. Even if you get sacked tomorrow, you still still continue consuming it, right? So poultry will be the thing that is the most of a necessity. So this one you got to know the factors, that the degree of necessity is the thing that determines the YED, and hence if you tell me the YED, I can deduce the degree of necessity. Okay, then the green color one. Green color one asks you to explain the effect on total revenue from leisure flights when there's a rise in income. So you will use table 1. This is table 1. Okay. So leisure flights to UK is this. YED is this. So this is the value you need to look at. So you need to know that 1.5 means it's a luxury good. It means that when there's a rise in income, there'll be a more than proportional increase in demand. And so if demand increases, your total revenue should also increase. Okay, so this one you got to know, it's what I mentioned to you, which is the application of YED on total revenue here. Okay, so you will see, you can rewind and copy the questions if you want, but in the tutorial, I will be going through CSQ2 and essay question 1A, which teaches you how to apply this. But of course, you want to do the blue color stuff, you got to know all the preceding knowledge lah. Okay. So this is the video for YED.